salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here, of course, on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that kind of good stuff. We got a packed day today, so we got to get going. I'm going to tell you one thing, though, that I'm very, very excited about. I ran into I went to the screening of Happy Time Murders the other day. Now, the review embargo is up at 2 o'clock. So I can't say what I thought about the movie yet. So the review embargo goes up at 2 o'clock. Anyway, I ran into the writers of the film there, and I ran into them again coming out of the movie. And I went up to them saying, guys, are you free maybe on Wednesday to maybe come down and meet me so we can talk about this movie? So I'm getting together with the writers of Happy Time Murders a little bit later today, and we're going to record that. And I'll put that interview up either later tonight or tomorrow, whatever. But I'm really excited to sit down and talk with these guys because I think that should be a lot of fun. So I got a busy day today. But you know what? The first thing we're going to cover today, as we do most days, is going over the results of yesterday's question of the day. Now, of course, yesterday's question of the day that I put to you guys was, do you think, is Marvel going to put dusted characters from Avengers Infinity War in the trailer for Avengers 4? I said yes, I think they will, and I think I laid out a very rational, logical argument for why we should think that they are going to put those characters in, but surprise, surprise, you guys completely disagreed with me. So here are the results of yesterday's question of the day. The question of, will the first Avengers 4 trailer show the resurrected dusted characters? Only 18.97, roughly 19% of you guys said, yes, welcome back. They are going to show these resurrected, dusted characters in the trailer. However, we got massively outvoted by those who are saying, nope, they're going to keep the mystery. They are not going to put those characters in the trailer. They're going to keep the mystery. 81% of you guys disagreeing with the 19% of us who thought they were. And of course, this is an exclusive here, we have the first, of course, official picture of Spider-Man there in Avengers 4. So don't share that around. That's a lot of people might consider that a spoiler. Anyway, now somebody sent me that picture. I just thought it was hilarious. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That's the results of yesterday's question of the day. And of course, today we have a brand new question of the day. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, before we get to our main topics that you guys submit in, there's a few things in breaking news that came out this morning. First of all, as many of you guys know, next year, I believe it's August of 2019, we are getting a Dora the Explorer movie. And of course, it's starring 17-year-old Isabella Moner, who's going to be playing Dora. The first official picture of her got released. There she is. Now, this morning we have found out that more cast have been added. Now, recently we heard that Eva Longoria is going to be joining the cast as Dora's mother, but now they've cast Dora's father, and it's the one and the only Michael Pena. So Michael Pena and Eva Longoria are going to be playing Dora's parents. So I don't know if their last name are Mr. and Mrs. Explorer, but whatever, they're going to make it. And look, I'm going to tell you right now, I am one of these guys who thinks this movie is a dumb idea. I have thought this movie is a dumb idea right from the very beginning. That being said, I've been thinking about it more and more. And, you know, the Dora IP, the Dora brand, is such a beloved brand that if you build a good story around it, much like Lego, right? Like, I thought Lego Movie was the stupidest idea in the world, and I love that movie now because they built a good story around it. You take a beloved IP like Dora, and the character can be can instantly attach to kids. Kids could fall in love with this character, right? And now you're adding in legit acting talents like an Eva Longoria and now Michael Pena. I mean, that just kind of opens up the possibilities. Look, I'm not sitting here saying that a Dora the Explorer movie is going to be, the movie to make a run for an Academy Award. I'm not suggesting that at all. This movie may be, terrible. Absolutely. It probably will be. But I'm just saying that as a guy who has thought that this whole Dora the Explorer idea was completely stupid right from the beginning, I gotta say my mind is being changed a little bit. My mind's changing a little bit. This could actually be something, clearly this isn't going to be for adults or anything like that, but you make this the right way, this could really hit home, and kids could love it, and maybe you got something here. I mean, maybe not. Like, I was a bit thrown off at first when they cast a 17-year-old. Like, I always thought of Dora as being like 10 or something like that, right? So clearly they're going in a little bit of a different direction. But hey, maybe this works. All I'm saying is that the addition of Michael Pena is at least intriguing. You have to at least admit that the addition of Michael Pena is kind of intriguing, right? So anyway, there's that. Also, off the top here, we got 2 stories around one of the hit movies in theaters right now, which is Crazy Rich Asians. And we're going to start with this. The author of Crazy Rich Asians, Kevin Kwan, he's the guy who wrote the trilogy of books, right? Turns out there's a warrant out for his arrest in Singapore. He is wanted for draft dodging. So my understanding of the story is basically this. Kevin Kwan has been living in America since 1990. Okay, so he's been living as an American since 1990. In 1994, he officially applied to revoke his Singaporean nationality. Like, he applied, said, I don't want that to be my citizenship anymore. I want to revoke it. And they denied his revocation. They said, nope. And on top of that, now in Singapore, there is a mandatory, I think it's 2 years, it might be more. There's a mandatory service in the military. So they have a draft. Now, before you think that's completely backwards, and it is kind of backwards thinking, but lots of countries have mandatory military service. Greece has mandatory military service. Finland, Denmark, a lot of countries I think there's over like 20, 30 countries in the world Israel have mandatory military service for all its citizens. Apparently, Kevin Kwan did not serve his mandatory time, left Singapore, was denied giving up his citizenship, and there is a warrant out for his arrest in Singapore. So, when like Crazy Rich Asians debuted over there, he couldn't go. Because if he went, he was going to be arrested. So I just thought, now the only thing that I find a little disturbing about this is that one of the things that the government issued, a statement they said, is that he exited the country without permission. It's like, wait a minute, okay, mandatory military service, okay, there are a lot of countries that do that, but like telling your citizens you're not allowed to leave, that's way backwards. And I know there are many countries that do that too, but to me that's really backwards. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of a weird story, and I thought I'd share it this morning. But listen, going on to the next topic, also on the topic of Crazy Rich Asians. Now, Crazy Rich Asians, of course, has done incredibly well at the box office for this little rom-com that could, and it keeps chugging away. It's got great reviews. It's a charming little film. I think it's a good movie. I enjoyed myself. It's entertaining. Not rewriting the book on how to do romantic comedies or anything. It's a pretty paint-by-numbers romantic comedy, but it's one of the better ones. I mean, it's charming, it's got heart, it's got laughs, all that kind of stuff, and it's making money. Well, apparently Warner Brothers has taken attention because Warner Brothers has already put into motion the development of the sequel to Crazy Rich Asians based on the second book in the series, and the second book is called, I kid you not, the name of the book is China Rich Girlfriend. Or is it Chinese Rich Girlfriend? I think it's China Rich Girlfriend. Anyway, is the name of the book. They're already developing it. They're putting it into motion. Now, they're bringing back the original producers. They're bringing back John M. Chu, who directed the first one. They're bringing back the screenwriters, and they've already got the ball in motion in the development. Now, it's important to point out that Warner Brothers has not given the official green light to this thing, so it could be pulled. But as the Hollywood Reporter and all the trades are pointing out, this is a no-brainer. They're absolutely going to be making this movie. It's 100% they're going to do it. They haven't given it the official green light yet, just because they're not at that stage yet. This is a low budget to produce, highly beloved, and profitable film that if you make another one, it's probably going to make you some more money too. It's a no-brainer. This is happening. Now, I don't know a lot about China Rich Girlfriend, other than the fact that Ann and I just had a 5-hour drive back from Northern California. We were up in Northern California this past weekend for a friend's wedding. And as we were driving back, Ann had bought that audiobook. So we were listening to the audio. So I'm about 5 hours into a 14-hour audiobook on it. And it's pretty charming, it's cute, and it's clever. So whatever, but there you have it. Under the no duh category, they are making a sequel to Crazy Rich Asians. John M. Chu right now is attached to another film. He's bringing a Lin-Manuel Miranda stage play to movie adaptation. That comes out in 2020. So I wouldn't expect to see this movie until at least 2021. But who knows? Maybe at some point along the line it gets fast-tracked and we get it sooner than that. But the story for now is they are indeed making a Crazy Rich Asians 2. So there you have it. All right. With that stuff out of the way, let's go on to our main topics of the day. Now, how do we select our main topics? It's actually pretty simple. You select them by sending in your topics and questions. How do you send in a topic and a question? It's easy. You email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I wouldn't even be able to fit them on the screen, even if I wanted to use them. All right, let's get on now with the first official topic today. And the first official topic today comes to us from Son of Mantooth. Is that Anchorman reference? If it is, I love it. Anyway, I'm a sucker for the Arrowverse shows. Yes, even Supergirl. Ugh, Supergirl. Anyway, don't have me. I think you mean don't hate me. Today, they released the first promo for this year's crossover event. In it, they show Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl, but no Legends. Why is that? Are they not in it this year? Also, they show the Batwoman signal up in the sky. I'm really excited for this year's event. What do you think of the promo? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, they have officially, even before the season has started, they've officially released the first piece of promo art for this year's crossover events. The crossover events in the CW Arrowverse have actually been amongst the most fun things of the entire season. Last year, their big crossover event was Crisis on Earth X, which was a hell of a lot of fun. Wouldn't have been good as a movie, like it would have been a disaster, but as understanding it in the context of the CW Arrowverse, it was a hell of a lot of fun. It was probably the best thing on any of the Arrowverse shows all year. I mean, it was really, really well done. It was really good, but it included Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and the Legends of Tomorrow. You're not wrong, Son of Mantooth. There is no Legends of Tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at the promo piece that he's talking about. This is the official promo art for it, the CW special 3-night crossover event. Now, here's what's very interesting about this. A couple things. Number one, they keep Arrow front and center. I've been saying for a long time the best way to make this Arrowverse thing work is to keep Arrow as your centerpiece. He is your Batman of this universe. In a universe without Batman, Arrow is your Batman in this universe. And I like that they're doing that. But here's the other interesting thing, too. Not only is there no Legends of Tomorrow, because no, the Legends of Tomorrow will not be a part of the crossover. And I'll tell you what, I understand the rationale. And here's why. Flash brings Flash and a couple of his auxiliary characters, yes. Arrow brings Arrow and a couple of auxiliary characters. Supergirl brings Supergirl and a couple of auxiliary characters. Legends of Tomorrow is a team of like 7 or 8 characters. And it's just a little unbalanced. So I can kind of see. I don't think this is a statement that CW's given up on Legends of Tomorrow because they have greenlit the next season. So I don't think they've given up on it. I just think it's just better for balance to have just these 3 solo lead characters with some of their auxiliary characters coming in for the crossover. But here's one of the other things that I thought was very interesting. The Arrow episode is on Monday, December 10th. That is Arrow's night. Now you might be saying, no, it's not. Yes, it is. This season, Arrow is going to air on Monday nights. So Arrow is on Monday nights this year, and that's when the Arrow episode's going to be. But here's the interesting thing. The crossover starts on Sunday, December 9th with The Flash. And then it ends on Tuesday, December the 11th with Supergirl. This is interesting. Supergirl's regular night is not Tuesday, it's Sunday. And The Flash's regular night is not Sunday, it's Tuesday. So they are actually moving the nights of Flash and Supergirl just for the crossover episode. Because Supergirl's regular night this year is going to be Sunday evenings. I gotta wonder why, if they're doing it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, why not just have Supergirl be the kickoff episode and have it on its regular night Sunday? Then you got Arrow on its regular night Monday. And then you'll have Flash to finish it off on its regular night on Tuesday. Why swap just for that 1 week Flash and Supergirl? The only theory I have is that they're doing it to try to give Supergirl a bump. Because not only are they putting Supergirl on Flash's regular night, which hopefully they're probably hoping will give Supergirl a bump, but also it's going to be the final chapter in the 3-night crossover, and they're making it the finale, and they're making it the climax, and they're probably hoping to give Supergirl a bit of a bump. If that's the case, that's actually not bad thinking. I mean, I don't like Supergirl, but if what you're trying to do is to position Supergirl to give her a little bit of a bump, swapping Flash and Supergirl on their nights, giving Supergirl the Flash time slot, and making her the finale of the 3-episode crossover, yeah, I don't like Supergirl, but that's pretty smart. That's pretty smart. I get it. I dig it. But listen, that leads us to today's question of the day. And today's question of the day is revolving around the crossover and the lack of Legends of Tomorrow. My question is this: are you guys okay with the fact that they're not going to be including Legends of Tomorrow in this year's crossover? It's simply that. And you can say, yes, I'm okay that they're not in it, or no, I'm not. Look in the description of this video. At the very bottom of this description is a link to the question of the day. Go and cast your vote. Are you okay with this? I'm going to go over there right now. About 100 of you guys have submitted answers right now, and so far, yes, it's fine that they're not using Legends of Tomorrow. Is in the lead with 73.17%. 26.8% of you guys are saying, no, this is not okay. Legends of Tomorrow are part of the Arrowverse. They should be in the crossover event. So right now, 73% of you saying it's fine that they're not using Legends. About 26% of you saying, no, it's not fine. We're going to go over the official results of this thing on tomorrow's John Campea show. So you still got 24 hours. Once again, go into the description of this video. At the very bottom, you'll find the link. Click on that link and go and let your voice be heard. Are you okay with the fact that they're not going to be using Legends of Tomorrow in this year's crossover event? All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Don Anderson II, who writes, "Hey John, love your show." Thank you so much, Don. Been watching you on shows since 2012. Wow, thanks a lot, man. So I had a good friend die in March, and he loved Quentin Tarantino, but he most certainly loved the Kill Bill movies. I recently watched it again last month, and I got a little emotional since I'm still kind of struggling with his death. What movie has done this to you, and has that ever happened to you? All right, thanks a lot for the email, Don. And, you know, one of the best things about movies, one of the millions of things that I love about movies, is that not only are they emotional experiences, right? You go to a movie and you have an emotional experience, whether it's fear or intrigue or laughter and joy or freaked out or whatever. Movies are emotional experiences. But not only are they emotional experiences, what's even better is that when you go to the movies with people, they are shared emotional experiences. Shared emotional experiences. And that's great. That's why I've always contend that, you know what? Going to a movie on a first date is a great idea. Just don't do dinner then a movie. You got to do the movie then dinner or drinks, because then you have a shared experience. Then you go out for dinner or drinks, and now you've got a point of reference, right? You guys have shared that experience together, and you can start. It's a great starting point. Movies for first dates are awesome. Don't listen to anybody who tells you they're not. The problem is they're doing it the wrong way. Because they go to dinner first, then a movie, and then it's the awkward, okay, and you're just sitting there for 2 hours. You start with the movie, have that shared experience, then go on with your evening together to do something else, and now you got a common point of reference. Anyway, that's a side note. But one of the great things about movies is that they are shared emotional experiences. And as such, when we see certain movies with families, or our families, or friends, loved ones, whatever, it just enhances it even more. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, we took an email from one of the viewers who was like, they were talking about a bad movie that they saw, but they saw it with their uncle. And I think it was an uncle. It was either uncle or dad, but I think it was an uncle. And it was an uncle he was very close with. And his uncle died shortly thereafter. And he was talking about how now that movie, even though it's a bad movie, has a very special place in his heart, you know? And that's, you know, one of the best things about why I love being a film fan and why I think movies aren't just little tropes. Movies are important. Stories are important. And one of the many reasons is because of those shared emotional experiences. Have I ever had something like that? I have, and I shared this recently, but I'll mention it again. I'm going to try to do it without getting emotional. As many of you guys know, it has now been 1 year, 2 months, and 5 days since the guy I grew up with as my best friend died, just a little over a year ago. And it was, I mean, him dying was one of the things that really sparked me to go off and do things on my own, to make decisions to make myself happy, you know? Anyway, his name was Brendan. And I will never forget that Brendan, it's one of my most cherished memories. Brendan and I went to go see Batman, the Tim Burton first Batman film. We were young, and I remember we went to Jackson Square in Hamilton, Ontario, that had this danky little movie theater, but it was the first time that I'd gone to a movie and saw a line. I don't mean 15, 20, 30 people. And this was inside of a mall, right? The line went all the way down the halls of the mall, all the way up, blah, 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 until it went outside onto the street. I had never seen anything like that before. And I had that with Brendan. I think it's the first movie he and I went to. I watch movies at home all the time, but I think it's the first movie we went to together. Anyway. And now, I don't think I've watched the original Batman since he died. I don't think I've watched the original Batman again since he died. But I think all of us, and I think this is a testament to the power of film, I think all of us probably have a story like that. And the fact that you have one is incredibly special. Hey, listen, guys, I would love it. You know what? Do this for all of us. If you've got a story like that, and it doesn't even have to be about somebody who's passed away, but is there a story you have about a movie-going experience, that shared emotional experience that you had with somebody, whether it's a family member, a friend, a brother, a sister, whatever, that is really special to you and important to you, makes it stand out to you? I'd love it if you would jump into the comments section and leave your thoughts. Leave your little story. I mean, keep it relatively short, but leave your little story. I would love to read it. I really would. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, man, it's happened to me. I think it's happened to all of us. And again, I think it's a testimony to the power of film. All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, man. Let's move on to the third topic. And the third topic today comes to us from Jessica Hassell, who writes, "Hi, John. I was wondering if you had a chance to read Kelly Marie Tran's piece about her leaving social media over the racial and sexist abuse she took. It's heartbreaking and insightful all at the same time. Why do human beings act like that?" Okay, thanks a lot for the question, man. And as many of you guys will remember, actress Kelly Marie Tran, who is just delightful. I mean, she is the hardest core nerd girl you're ever going to meet. Before she had to leave social media, I mean, she's always, talking about her next Dungeons and Dragons game, showing off all her collectibles and blah, blah. Like, she's as hardcore nerd as they come. And she's awesome. Anne had a chance to meet her. Anne just loves this girl. I love this girl. I think she's wonderful. Now, I didn't like the way they wrote the Rose character in The Last Jedi. I had my issues with that, but she is all kinds of wonderful. She's a great person. Anyway. Now, as many of you guys know, she became the target of a lot of racial and sexist abuse. Now, I'm not talking about, let me be very clear about this. Always got to preface with this. I'm not talking about people who just didn't like The Last Jedi. That's fine. People who didn't like The Last Jedi, you know what they're called? They're called film fans. Because we all love and dislike certain movies. There's a bunch of people that didn't like The Last Jedi just because they didn't like The Last Jedi. That's cool. However, there is within that legitimate group of film fans a bunch of cousin-humping, sniveling, cowardly, basement-dwelling losers who decided to hide amongst those legitimate movie fans who just didn't like The Last Jedi, to hide amongst them and use them as camouflage and use them as human shields as a way to espouse their racism and their sexism. And they used other people who just didn't like The Last Jedi as cover. They used them as cover to just try to espouse their own racial hatred, their own sexism, their own kind of stuff. And it was hard. Before she pulled her stuff down, man, all you had to do was spend 2 minutes reading through the comments that people were leaving on her page. All you had to do, there was that Wikipedia page that changed her name from Rose Tico, the name of the character, to Ching Chong Ching Chang, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the amount of abuse was, it just made you disgusted to even be a part of the human race. It was awful. And again, these low-life, cousin-humping, pathetic, cowardly basement dwelling losers were using legitimate movie fans who just didn't like The Last Jedi as human shields and hide amongst them. And it was pathetic. It's pathetic. Anyway, moving forward from that, Kelly Marie Tran, obviously, as a result of all the abuse, just left social media altogether. Something we're seeing more and more people do now. But she put out her first public response to the abuse, to why she made the decision to pull off, what she was going through, and it's really insightful. I highly encourage all of you to look it up and read it for yourself. I highly encourage everybody to look it up and read it for yourself. But I pulled a couple of excerpts that I thought were quite insightful, and I just want us to look at these here for a moment. First of all, here's one of the things that Kelly Marie Tran wrote. She wrote, "It wasn't their words, it was that I started to believe them. Their words seemed to confirm what growing up as a woman and a person of color already taught me, that I belonged in the margins and spaces, valid only as a minor character in their lives and in their stories. Their words reinforced a narrative I had heard my whole life, that I was, quote unquote, other, that I didn't belong, that I wasn't good enough simply because I wasn't like them. And that feeling I realize now was and is shame. A shame for the things that made me different, a shame for the culture from which I came from. And to me, the most disappointing thing was that I felt it all. Because the same society that taught some people they were heroes, saviors, inheritors of the manifest destiny ideal, taught me I existed only in the background of their stories, doing their nails, diagnosing their illnesses, supporting their love interests, and perhaps the most damaging, waiting for them to rescue me." Now, she goes on to write a very affirmative statement saying, you know what? But I'm done with that. I know who I am. And I'm just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. And it was great. It's a very powerful piece. And again, those are just some excerpts. I really encourage you to look at them and read them all. And then immediately hopping online was Kelly Marie Tran's biggest supporter, of course, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill himself, who after reading that article immediately went online and said, "I said it before, I'll say it again. What is not to love? I love you, Lone." Lone is Kelly Marie Tran. She reveals in the article that her real first name is Lone. I'll get to that in a second. "We don't deserve you, and you are just getting started." Hashtag real life hero Rose Tico, hashtag real life hero Kelly Marie Tran, and then the link to the article that he was referring to. Now, also in the article, she talks about, cultural shaming and stuff like that. Even the fact that her parents renamed her so she would have an easier time here to Kelly Marie Tran instead of Lone Tran, right? And she mentions that in the article, that her real name is actually Lone. And she uses that to espouse the point. It's funny because I grew up with a friend named John Langford. And John Langford was Vietnamese. He was adopted by Canadian Caucasian parents. And they were wonderful people. And they gave him the name John. Just their motivation wasn't to try to erase his heritage. Their motivation was to make sure he has an easier time. I understand that. But as John got older, he started really to identify with his ethnicity, with his background, stuff like that, and he changed his first name back to his original birth first name, which was Tran. His real name was, I believe it was Tran Van Schwan. I think that was his name, but he kept Langford because he loves his family. He identifies with his family. So his name became Tran Langford. And now he's in the behind-the-scenes entertainment industry, stuff like that. He's doing great stuff up there in Canada now, and I remember that. So I had friends who did that. My own family, to a much smaller degree. Like when my family came over on the boat, particularly my grandfather. My grandfather came over first with his brothers, right? My grandfather's name's Giovanni. But, to fit in more, took the name John. The English version of Giovanni just took the name John and started going by John, right? I was named after my grandfather. Some of you guys know, my name's Giovanni. But, I was known as and called and named John after my grandfather, because that's what we did here. But I'm not a visible minority. So, my experience of that is like this, compared to people like my friend Tran, compared to people like Kelly Marie Tran. So I thought that was all very interesting. What I loved about the article was that it was humanizing. It humanizes and puts a face to this. I think a lot of online trolls, a lot of them are trolls because they don't get that you're talking about human beings. It's not humanized for them, right? I think some people, once they realize and actually put a face to thing, I think a lot of people who are trolls stop being trolls. And what I love about this article is that it's a very human. It wasn't an angry article. It's a very humanizing article, and I liked it a lot, and I thought it spoke volumes, and I was really proud of her for the article that she wrote. So I encourage all you guys to go and check that out and see what you think about it. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next emailed in topic today comes to us from our viewer, David Gregory, who writes, "Hey John, Michael G. Wilson, Barbara Broccoli, and Daniel Craig today announced that due to creative differences, Danny Boyle has decided to no longer direct Bond 25. Will this affect the release date of the next installment, and who could possibly direct?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, David. And yeah, so yesterday afternoon, the news dropped. Danny Boyle, the Academy Award-winning director, has exited out of the James Bond project over the dreaded creative differences. Let me go off on this for a second, this creative differences thing, before we talk about Danny specifically. I am completely at a loss for how this happens so often. How does a director leave over creative differences? Did the producers and the director not sit down, thoroughly go through what their plans and visions were for the movie and come to an agreement and understanding and then officially announce that he or she is now the director? How do you have creative differences if you've done your due diligence? Look, I love the Star Wars movies. I love the universe. But one of my big criticisms, going back for a couple of years now, over the way that like Kathleen Kennedy has managed the Star Wars universe, is the constant rotating in and out door of directors, constantly announcing directors, and then constantly those directors having to leave over one circumstance or another. It's like, don't you sit down first? Don't you have a proper vetting system? Don't you have a proper procedure? Don't you have a proper modus operandi of going through and sitting down and making sure you guys are all on the same page before announcing that you're directing and this person's directing a movie? How does this happen? How does this happen? Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, what was the meeting? Hey, Danny, you want to direct Bond? Sure. Okay, you're directing Bond. Was that it? And now you're figuring out you have creative differences? How stupid do you have to be? This ain't rocket science. You sit down, you figure out both from the director and from the producer point of view. You sit down, you both express your visions, you come to an agreement on what you think the vision should be, then you hire the director. And if you're the director, you make sure you got the same vision as the producer, you make sure you're all lined up, then you accept the job as the director. What the hell is with this ongoing, non-stop calamity, this ongoing systemic problem we have, this ongoing trend of directors leaving movies over creative differences? Why the hell didn't you figure out you had creative differences before you accepted the job or before you hired the dude? Seriously, it ain't rocket science, folks. It ain't rocket science. Now, other times directors have to leave, hey, because schedules got bumped and now I have a schedule conflict with another movie I was supposed to do. Or, maybe the producers realize, damn, like something happened and now we are put in a position where we have to change our story and the director doesn't want to. Okay, then you part way. Those things all happen and that's legit. But this creative differences thing is crazy to me. Anyway, let's get to Danny Boyle for a second. So Danny Boyle, not all that long ago, announced, I'm directing the James Bond film. And he brought along his longtime writer to write the script. And now here we are. This movie is supposed to come out in 2019. This movie is supposed to come out next year. And now, not only do they not have a director, but apparently they're in a situation where there is some disagreement and conflict over what the story even is at this point. Look, there are many, many times that a director leaves a project that does not put the project in crisis. But I believe this situation, given that it's over creative differences, which means they don't know what the hell they're doing over there, and on top of the fact, this is a movie that's supposed to be in theaters next year. This project is in crisis. Now, if they want to keep that release date, they're going to have to motor and choose another director. And they'll probably not do their due diligence again and get somebody that wasn't really their optimal choice. They're just going to have to take somebody because they're available now to do it. Or they're going to have to bump their release date and throw off all their other plans. And everybody else's schedules that were built around having that movie come out on that date, now they're all going to have to be released from that, and they got to figure out another way to do it. It is a movie that is in crisis. Now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but this is a production that's now in crisis. And it was easily avoidable, both from the producer's point of view and from Danny Boyle's point of view. This is something that was easily avoidable. You damn well should have made sure you're all on the same page before you said, yep, let's do it. You just had to make sure you're on the same page. It's not like you're signing up for a 5-year commitment. All you got to do is get in there, do the job. 8 months, you're in and out, right? You don't have to be on the same page forever. You just got to be on the same page for 8 months. That's all you got to do. Same page, 8 months, go. Should be able to do it. And if you can't, then you shouldn't have taken the job in the first place. So it is really frustrating. As far as the question goes about who should take over, who should be the next director of the James Bond franchise, well, you guys know what I'm going to say about that. I don't care. As long as it's a good director. That's all I care about. You bring in a good director, I'm all on board. I'm great with it. Whoever you bring in Catherine Bigelow. She's a great director. Bring in Christopher Nolan. A lot of people want to, by the way, don't hold your breath. Christopher Nolan's not going to direct this film. No way. But I mean, that would be great if he did. Bring him in. Gold. Bring in this guy or this girl or this guy or this person, whatever. Just as long as it's a good storyteller and a good director. A good director is a good storyteller. Let him go. So I'm really fine. I really don't care who they bring on. As long as it's somebody who's got some talent and that you thoroughly spend time together with the producers, really hammer out what the vision's going to be, make 100% sure you're on the same page, and then accept the gig, then hire the guy, then announce it to the world, and then stick to it. So anyway, that's just kind of, this is a shame. This is a real shame because it's probably going to be Daniel Craig's last movie. Sorry, it's going to probably be Daniel Craig's final outing as Bond. And starting this thing off with all this chaos and everything, directors in, directors out, this movie's supposed to come out next year, that's unfortunate. And it's not good. This won't necessarily ruin the movie, but it's certainly not a good thing either. So that's kind of where I'm at on that whole thing. All right, let's move on now to the final emailed in topic of the day. And the final emailed in topic today comes to us from Victor Gonzalez, who writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you so much, Victor. I have one quick question. Whatever happened to Meg Ryan? I loved her in Sleepless in Seattle, You Got Mail, City of Angels, and Kate and Leopold with my man crush, Hugh Jackman." That's a big thing. Look, for a long time, Meg Ryan was, I mean, if there was ever a term, America's sweetheart, it was Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan was it. She was absolutely it. She was the girl. And then her and Tom Hanks kind of became the on-screen couple, right? She was a powerhouse and a dynamite and all that kind of stuff. And I love it. She was cute and quirky and she had great personality on screen. She was beautiful and talented and all that kind of stuff. I think what happened with Meg Ryan is there's one big major earthquake that happened and then other minor things. Number one, a couple of films she started putting out started to perform badly at the box office. She was losing her shine a little bit. That happens with everybody in whatever career they're in. You know, the greatest MMA fighter in the world will eventually start losing fights, right? So that happened. Then she had a couple of movies, went straight to home video, and that's not a good thing. And, you know, I think she just wanted to recoil a little bit from the spotlight. She's not somebody who loves the spotlight despite being a big movie star. So there was that. I think the big thing, though, was the damage that was done to her image. Because remember, she was America's sweetheart. She was America's girl next door. And then what happened, there was this incident. Remember, she was married to Dennis Quaid. And then she was in a movie with Russell Crowe. I believe it was called Proof of Life. And then massive reports came out that her and Russell Crowe started having an affair. Then, you know, her and Dennis Quaid divorced and blah, blah, blah. And I think when so much of her... And it's important because people who are in marriages end. Marriages go badly. I mean, it happens, right? But because like a lot of her image and a lot of her success was built on that image of The Girl Next Door, America's Sweetheart, all that kind of stuff. It damaged that part of her. And now, if she was a big, famous bad girl, that whole controversy wouldn't have affected her one bit. But because a lot of that was built on that image of Girl Next Door and all that kind of stuff, an image she never built, but other people built around her, I think it drastically affected the way people and the general audience saw her. And I think that effect ultimately really did have long-term effects on her career going forward. And honestly, in interviews I've seen with her in recent years, I don't really think she minds that she's not the big movie star anymore. I don't even really think she wants to be a movie star anymore. She's talked a lot about the differences in the culture today versus before, and she doesn't even really want to be. But she has all the money in the world. She's got a daughter. She's got kids. I mean, so she's got other things to look at her time. But yeah, that ultimately, it's a collection of things. But I would say those are the key things that probably led to, what happened to Meg Ryan. So that's just kind of how I see it. Now, I'm sure there's other information out there you can look up and all that kind of stuff. But but whatever, man. I still love her movies. I even like Kate and Leopold. I do. Sleep in Seattle. You Got Mail is my favorite romantic comedy she did. I love You Got Mail that she did with Tom Hanks. Totally awesome movie. You should check it out if you get a chance. All right, guys. That'll do it for the emailed in topics of today. We're going to save a few moments here, though, and go over and take some live questions from you guys. You guys have been sending in some live questions, so let's get to those right now. And the first live question today comes to us from Jordan Cadwell, who writes, "Not great news about Bond. Chances Nolan slides in and saves the day. It's right up his alley, plus he's not working on anything to my knowledge. I doubt it. I think the producer's number one priority right now is to keep that release date. I think they really want that release date. If they don't, they may run the risk of losing Daniel Craig. Because Daniel Craig has built his schedule around doing this movie at that time. You bump that, I could throw everything to hell. And you could risk losing Daniel Craig at that point. Maybe not, but maybe. But for whatever their reasons are, I think they want to keep that release date. That being said, Christopher Nolan's not going to swoop in and first of all, pick up somebody else's story. He's going to want to develop and write his own story, which he's going to want time to do it. There's no way Christopher Nolan can come in right now and still have this movie ready to go, shooting in the next couple of months and ready for theaters next year. It ain't going to happen. Not with Christopher Nolan. So unless the Bond producers change their position on when they need to release this movie by, I really doubt you're going to see Christopher Nolan in there. Because Christopher Nolan is going to want a lot of creative control. Understandably so. And it looks like if you got Danny Boyle, an Academy Award-winning director, ditching because of creative differences, that means they weren't giving him a certain amount of creative control. And that's fine. No director should have 100% creative control. That's when disasters happen. But you do got to give up a lot of creative control to somebody like a Christopher Nolan. And I don't think they're going to do it. I also don't think the timeline's going to work. So for all those reasons, I don't think you're going to see that happen. It would be pretty cool, though, wouldn't it? It would be pretty cool. Ben Rayner writes, "I'm okay with Lot not being in crossover. Legends of Tomorrow not being in crossover. Legends doesn't really fit with the other shows anymore. I can't see their wackiness fitting in with Arrow or what I am picturing Gotham will be." I don't completely disagree with you there, Ben, actually, now that I think about it. Legends of Tomorrow has gotten wackier and wackier. Sometimes to some pretty positive effects, sometimes not so much. I'm honestly not sure if I'm even going to pick up and start watching Legends of Tomorrow again when the new season starts. I've kind of ditched on it a little bit, I think, but you're absolutely not wrong. I mean, there has become a decided tonal difference between Arrow, Supergirl, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. And maybe it would feel more awkward than anything else. That's actually a pretty good observation, Ben. Ben Hayusa writes, "I'm a big fan of buddy cop or dynamic duo movies like Tango and Cash, Lethal Weapon, or Rush Hour 2. Reason one of the movies of 2019 I'm looking forward to is Hobbs and Shaw, especially with the addition of Idris Elba." Yeah, so for those of you who aren't aware, and I'm sure most of you know, there's a Fast and Furious spin-off movie coming out in 2019, Hobbs and Shaw, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham as their characters from Fast and the Furious. And Idris Elba has been brought in to be the villain, and David Leitch, one of the John Wick directors, is coming in to direct the film. Lots of reasons to be excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it too. Let me say this without breaking review embargo. If you're a fan of buddy cop movies, especially some of those 80s ones like Tango and Cash or Lethal Weapon, whatever, if you're a fan of buddy cop movies, you're going to want to see Happy Time Murders. Because this is not a review, I'm just saying, Happy Time Murders at its core is a buddy cop movie. It really is. And if you really like those types of films, Ben, I would suggest you check out Happy Time Murders. Getting back to the Hobbs and Shaw thing, yeah, I think there are a million reasons to be looking forward to this movie. Just all the talent involved, the behind-the-scenes talent involved, the fact that it's a team-up movie like that. I'm on board. I'm looking forward to it, too. Can't get here fast enough. All right, Shannon C. Gates writes, what would you like to see for Episode 9 of Star Wars? Nothing. I've been asked that question before, Shannon, actually, and I always kind of give the same answer, which is nothing. There is nothing I'm going into. I've kind of adopted a philosophy the last year or two that I'm putting no expectations on what I want to see out of the movie. Because what happens is people make up in their own heads what I want to see, and if the movie doesn't give them what they imagined up in their head, then they walk out complaining and not liking it. I, over the last couple of years, have tried to adopt a philosophy of nothing. You just show me the movie. You tell me your story, filmmakers. You tell me your story. Because you know what? The Last Jedi did not give me what I wanted out of it. I want to see Luke Skywalker, the badass, taking out 500 stormtroopers and beating up a whole bunch of useless little fools known as the Knights of Ren and like establishing his dominance, all like that. And it didn't give me that, but it gave me something completely opposite that I actually ended up loving anyway. I love the Luke Skywalker storyline in that movie. There are things about the movie I'm not so thrilled with, but the Luke Skywalker storyline that they gave us, I loved, and it was completely the opposite of what I wanted to see. So I tend to not go into any movies wanting to see anything. I just want to see what the storytellers are going to give us. Shannon follows it up with, who should be the next Bond if Craig steps down? Same thing. I don't care. It's the answer I always give to whenever somebody asks me, which actor should play X role? I don't care. As long as it's a talented actor. Because at the end of the day, I don't know how they're going to write the character. I don't know what they have in mind. So I can't say who should play what role and who shouldn't. Hey, as long as they announce whoever is taking it over, whether it's a Tom Hiddleston, whether it's an Idris Elba, whether it's a Henry Cavill, whether it's a Chiwetel Ejiofor, whoever, as long as it's a talented actor, I'm okay. And I'll be fine with it, whoever it is. Nathan Oswald writes, Richard E. Grant denied rumor playing Thrawn in Star Wars 9. Yeah, first of all, I don't know why anybody believed that in the first place. I honestly don't know how that started as a rumor. Oh, he's a guy. And he's a little older. He must be Thrawn! I never understood why anybody ever thought that or why that was a legit rumor in the first place. Anyway, Richard E. Grant is an actor. I believe he was in Gosford Park, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, who's going to be in Episode 9, and a bunch of people started writing this report that he was going to play Thrawn. Anyway, Richard E. Grant, we don't know who he's playing, but he has definitively come out and established, I'm not playing Thrawn. So there's that, and it wouldn't make any sense. The timeline's all wrong. It wouldn't make any sense for him to play Thrawn anyway. Let's see. Patrick Conway writes, White Canary should at least be there. Well, I mean, yes or no? Yes and no. I mean, White Canary has a very strong connection to the Arrow series. That's where she started. But then again, so does Adam, right? So does a couple of the characters got their origins and their start on one of those other shows. I think if you're not going to have the Legends of Tomorrow, then you just don't have the Legends of Tomorrow. I think you're only asking for problems by handpicking one or two characters that can be and then leaving the rest out. I think then you're just asking for trouble from the fans of Legends of Tomorrow, saying, why was she in it and not my other favorite character from the show? You know what I mean? So I think if you're going to not have Legends of Tomorrow in there, and whether that's the right decision or not, I don't know. But if that is your decision to not have Legends of Tomorrow, then you just don't have Legends of Tomorrow. Otherwise, I think you're just asking for drama and problems. Let's see. Nathan Oswald writes, in my honest opinion, Happy Time Murders looks dumb, not very funny at all. Oh, that's cool. I mean, look, the Happy Time Murders trailer is a completely divisive trailer. There's no middle ground. You either think it's some of the funniest stuff you've ever seen in a trailer, or you think it's stupid. There's no middle ground on that, right? I happen to be one of the people that thought, oh my God, this trailer's hilarious. I loved it. And I know people who thought it was stupid and dumb. Fine. So yeah, you can feel that way. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think it looks bad, then you think it looks bad. It's all subjective. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Sharon Aurora writes, "Oh my God, John, have you watched the Supernatural parody on YouTube? It has the entire cast and it is 10 minutes of pure gold." I've never even heard of it, Sharon, but Supernatural is one of my favorite shows. So now you know I got to go check that out. But no, I had never even heard of this thing, but now I do. Thank you for letting me know about it. Ganem McIntyre writes, "I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and I'm finally sitting down to watch the extended edition of Lord of the Rings. What do you prefer, the theatrical or the extended? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." Generally speaking, to me, the theatrical version is the definitive version of the film. That's just how I interpret it. Whatever is released in theaters, that's the movie. That's what the movie is. So that's how I kind of look at that. I do love the extended edition, though. I really do. But quite frankly, you never could have put that. It was just far too long. Far too long to ever put those in theaters. Really. I mean, they did special screenings of the extended editions later, and that's fine. But you couldn't have had your first run of those movies with those editions. I really do like it. I love the extended editions. I do. But if I was introducing somebody to the Lord of the Rings movies for the first time, I'd be pulling out the theatrical editions. I'd be going with the legit theatrical releases, which to me, again, is the true movie. And then if they love it, later on, we'll sit down again and watch the extended version. So I'm going to lean towards the original version, but I do love the extended as well. Absolutely. Curtis Lopez writes, I know you don't like the X-actor in X-role questions, but I had the random thought of Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians as Bond. I like the idea. No. First of all, he didn't really stand out to me in the movie. He was fine, but it was also a very one-dimensional character. Like, I have a couple of criticisms about Crazy Rich Asians. Overall, I like the movie, though. It's something you should see because it is entertaining. But one of my problems is the boyfriend is perfect. Like, he's perfect. He has perfect... he has got a perfect moral compass. He's perfect character we're talking about. If I'm going to be honest, Henry Golding... he didn't have the opportunity to really show us anything, to really show us that he's a decent actor or not, because it was a very one-note character, that there wasn't much he could do with. So honestly, I have no idea if he's a good actor or not. To me, he's just a dude who's in a popular movie. So for that, I wouldn't actually consider at this point Henry's name to be an interesting choice for Bond, because I just don't know that he's a good actor. I just seeing him in that gave me no indication if he's any good or not. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying that role did not give him an opportunity to show us if he could act or not. That's all I'm saying. Not that he did a bad job, just that he wasn't given a chance to show us what he can do. So that's why I wouldn't be excited about that name right now. Curtis, wait a second, where'd Curtis go? Big jump, of course. Curtis Lopez follows up with, what are your thoughts on Purple Rain? It's hokey fun, but the music is fantastic. It's been a lot of years since I've watched Purple Rain, but I remember liking Purple Rain. In your purple rain. I mean, don't get me wrong, Prince was never destined to be a movie star. That's for certain. But yeah, I like Purple Rain. I thought it was a fun little movie. I like the musical numbers. Like I like them. I like the antagonist. I thought, yeah, it was a good little movie. I mean, it's not something I go back and watch every year. It's not something I watch every 2 or 3 years. But it's been at least a decade since I've watched it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good little movie. AFC writes, ever been to 270 Cinema Screen? Opened one in UK. No, never even heard of it, to be honest with you, AFC, but now I've got to look it up and see what it is, because anything that's new in movie theater technology, I want to check out. So I've never experienced it, never heard of it, but I will check it out. Thanks for the heads up on that, AFC. 3C Films writes, did you see the Hollywood Reporter on Batman needing to stay white? Horrible logic on the article. I have not seen that article, and I would dispute that. I mean, well, I shouldn't say I'll dispute it. I need to read their reasoning first, and then I'll either agree with it or I'll dispute it. But I've never felt that it was important look, I don't think it's important to change Batman from being white. I don't. But I also don't think there's a huge importance to keep him white either. There's no narrative tentpole that says Bruce Wayne has to be white. Then again, there's no narrative template that says you have to change him from being white. I'm perfectly fine if they keep Batman white forever. And I'm perfectly fine if they try something different later, too. But I haven't seen the article. Guys, can you tweet me a link? Can you tweet me a link to that? Because I would love to see that article and see what it is they're talking about, because that sounds really interesting, 3C. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Let's see. Joe Byram writes, no, I'm going to assume, well, that's a Vader roar, but I'm going to assume you're talking about Danny Boyle. Yeah, I'm disappointed by the Danny Boyle thing, I'll be honest. Because Danny Boyle's a really good director who has put out some fantastic movies. And I thought his sensibilities coming to Bond was going to be great. And I was really looking forward to it. It's really a shame. Alex Von Gollum writes, but John, I've been wondering, if Stan Lee's character survived the snap in Infinity War, it'd be harsh if he didn't. Thoughts? Well, what character? Stan Lee has 20 characters in the movie universe. So I'm sure some of them didn't survive the snap, and I'm sure some of them did. I'm sure there's probably still 10 of them around, and 10 of them probably got dusted by all things considerable. Sam Fisher writes, saw Black Klansman the other day. Frickin' love that movie. Saw Black Klansman the other day. So good. I thought the movie was hilarious in its absurdity, in the fact that this actually happened. I mean, yeah, it's a true story, but again, it's based on a true story. There are things they took creative license with in the movie. Keep that in mind, as in most movies based on true stories do. But the movie's fantastic. I mean, I had everybody telling me, John, this movie's great. You gotta see it, John. This movie's great. But I'm not a huge Spike Lee fan, right? So, I mean, Anna and I want to see it. We've been trying to see it, but I'll be honest with you, I was never making it my number one priority to run out and see Black Klansman. Then we did the other night. Oh my God, so good. Like, don't get me wrong, A Quiet Place is still my number one movie of the year, but Black Klansman is right up there. It's a damn great movie. Check it out. It's pretty spectacular. Tom Foster writes, hey John, if Cap retires / dies in Avengers 4, who would you like to see take the mantle? Bucky or Falcon? Neither. If, for whatever reason, they do have Captain America die or disappear or whatever they're going to do in Avengers 4. And I'm not sure that they will. But if they do, nobody should take up the mantle of Captain America. Captain America, to me, all right, I understand the precedents that have been set in the comic books. I understand that. But this is the movies, not the comics. To me, they are synonymous. Steve Rogers is Captain America. Captain America is Steve Rogers. Captain America isn't a mantle. Captain America is who Steve Rogers is. Steve Rogers is Captain America. Captain America is Steve Rogers. So they've painted themselves into a bit of a corner. Bucky is still a wanted international terrorist in the MCU. Like it or not, that's what he is in the MCU. Falcon, as great as Falcon. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't want anybody to take up the mantle of Captain America. I want Bucky to be Bucky. I want Falcon to be Falcon. I think Falcon is great as Falcon. I think Bucky's great as Bucky. They should stay who they are. Nobody should take up the mantle of Captain America because you can't become Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is Captain America. Captain America is Steve Rogers. That's the way I see it, and you're asking me, so that's my opinion of that. I don't think anybody should take up the mantle, to be honest. All right, just have time for a couple more questions, then we got to wrap it up, guys. Jedi Lori writes, yesterday you said that Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi was the same as in Empire Strikes Back. Can you say how? I really want to understand and appreciate The Last Jedi more. Well, you know, it's funny. Me and Anne and Anne's sister Olive and my brother-in-law Stan, who's also a Canadian from Canada, we all went to this Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back in concert, where they play the movie, but they take out the soundtrack, and they have a live orchestra playing the actual music along with the movie. It's an amazing experience. I loved it. But I've always thought this, but it was during that screening especially, that when you watch Luke and his personality traits and his character traits in that movie, it's completely consistent with the character we got in The Last Jedi. So in The Last Jedi, you got a guy who is really influenced by his emotions. He's defeatist. Luke is a defeatist dude. He does have a tendency to be very defeatist. And in understanding in The Last Jedi that he was a character who's like, I've seen my father turn to the dark side and create genocide across the galaxy. Now I'm seeing my own nephew doing it. I'm failing as a master. The fact that he turned dark, he blames himself because he's defeatist. It's my own fault. I need to withdraw myself, blah, blah, blah. All of that, now let's look at Empire Strikes Back. Short-tempered, defeatist, doubting, always doubting himself and everything that exists. You ask the impossible, Yoda, constantly going on about Yoda. Everything out of his mouth in Empire Strikes Back is completely defeatist, negative, self-doubting, self-deprecating, the whole thing. The only time he's remotely positive when he's talking to Yoda when he's leaving, I will return, I promise. I won't that what happened to my dad won't happen to me, I promise. But everything else about it is very guided and moved by his emotions, which is something that Yoda's always been very afraid of. When you look at that dude in Empire Strikes Back, you cannot help but be confronted with the truth that it is the exact same guy in The Last Jedi. And a guy whose personality traits, like that guy in The Empire Strikes Back, is exactly how this guy, 30 years later, would be responding to that sort of circumstance and situation. It's the exact same dude. And so that's just kind of how I see the whole thing. Third Man 3, and this will be the last question of the day. Everybody else who has questions after that, don't worry. I'm going to take all these questions and add them to an upcoming companion video. All right, Third Man 3 writes, I never thought they would make the November 19 release date for Bond. Now it has to be pushed, right? Well, no, it was very realistic that they could reach that release date. If they were going into production before the end of this year, probably about 3 months shooting schedule, say 7 months, or 3 month shooting schedule. Say they get started shooting in November, 3 months shooting schedule, probably even less than that. But let's go with a 3 month shooting schedule, 4 or 5 months for post, totally ready. Totally ready. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. Now though, I don't know. Now we're going to have to wait and see how quickly they actually move on getting a new director. If they can keep the timetable, because they got to get a new director like tomorrow. I'm not literally tomorrow, but they got to get a new director on soon. If they want to keep that release date, they've got to get a new director on soon. Because any new director worth their salt is going to want to go over the script. They may even want to rewrite the script. I mean, I don't know. But any director who's any good is going to need time with that script. And so if you're aiming to start shooting this movie in a couple months, you got to get your ass in gear. And you got to get a new director on board. It's all going to be about that. Their ability to keep that release date is going to completely be dependent upon how quickly can they get a new director on board. And that might be challenging to get a good one at this point. But we're just going to have to wait and see, man. We're just going to have to wait and see. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, don't forget, we'll be back again tomorrow, 9 a.m. with the John Campea Show. A little bit later this afternoon. You know what? I'm probably going to push open mic to 3 p.m. today, because I do have to run and meet up with those Happy Time Murder writers. And then we are going to launch our Happy Time Murders review at 2 p.m. Now, normally I do open mic at 2 p.m., but because I'm going to release the review at 2 p.m., probably going to push open mic to 3 p.m. So keep your eyes open for that. That'll be a little bit of a change up for today. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and of course, until our next video, bye-bye.